This video is brought to you by Blue Guardian, the only prop firm that protects their traders.
This was our last repricing. This is our last imbalance zone before the continuation and the higher high was made. So now having an overall retracement, creating sell side liquidity, 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touches, came into that zone. And I'm still in this trade. It's a phenomenal trade. I even said it could be the potential trade of the year, even way before we had the entry. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the pre-market analysis video for this week. Hope you guys had a great holiday weekend for those of you who are celebrating the 4th of July. Hopefully you guys were able to relax a little bit, take some time off, spend time with family and friends. So of course, the pairs highlighted in red today are what we're going to be discussing. Everything not highlighted in red I won't be looking at or talking about as of right now, just because I don't see anything really pertinent on those pairs. But if you have questions about anything after the video, please feel free to message me at any point in time. Be happy to help you in any way that I can. And of course, definitely feel free to take notes, jot this same analysis down on your chart so you can follow along throughout the week. And of course, if you do resonate with this strategy as we're going through it and want to learn more about how we can best assist you moving forward in your journey and helping you to actually apply these concepts to the chart, because application is the hardest part, feel free to head over to my website, arielfxtrading.com, and just book a free call with me. It's free. We'd just like to sit down with you and chat for a couple minutes, see if our program is the right fit for you. If it is, great. We would love to get you set up. And if not, at least you know that going forward, and you can just take advantage of these videos each and every week. So let's get right into it, guys.
Our sponsor, Blue Guardian, is the only prop firm that gives their traders a built-in tool to protect them from hitting their max daily loss and overtrading. It's super simple to use. Just set the Guardian Protector each day from your dashboard. Did you also know their evaluations are 40 and 80 days long, giving you plenty of time to hit their low 8 and 4% targets? Check out the link and coupon in the description to get 10% off your next Blue Guardian evaluation.
We have AUDJPY. So overall, we are extremely bullish, and we are looking for price to have an overall retracement back down into an area of demand that we've been talking about for a couple of weeks now at 91.35. So we would like to see further continuation short getting into this region of demand to free up a lot of the imbalance that was created with this huge trickle move. We go to the daily, you can just see it's just straight buying volume. Now, I do believe that in the short term, we may see some downward pressure, and I do have a very interesting area to be looking for. What price action has been showing us the past couple of weeks is this corrective downtrend, right? So this is not an overall downtrend. However, this is more of just a correction on the higher time frame to be looking for overall longs. So we can see we created a low, we created a high, came into this last upthrust, so this last supply zone that flipped from demand to supply when the counter trend here was broken to the downside. We failed to generate that higher high, and instead we made the lower low. So now we're very corrective in nature. And what happened was that we created a wedge. We broke out of the wedge, took buy side, it took sell side, came back up and took buy side again, and now continuing short. So a lot of buy and sell side liquidity being generated. We can see that we had these equal highs. And this previous swing high was run with this move. We came up into that last area of supply and then filling in that imbalance as well. And then we started to shift towards the downside. So I don't have a particular exact area of supply or demand in this region. Well, really supply because we're looking short. But I do have 96. So 96 would just be within this overall level. We can kind of see that this is an area of supply as well. So just kind of looking for an overall retracement as we had a lower low, a lower high, a lower low. Looking for a lower high for continuation since we are very much corrective at this current time. So 96 would be that overall level that I could be looking for. AUDUSD. So very similar to AUDJPY's AUDUSD here. And what we're looking for is more of a push down into our higher time frame level of demand. So we can see that from that higher time frame perspective, well, this is a higher time frame level of demand. We've talked about this for the past couple of weeks. This was our last point of demand in here, right? Within this counter trend, we can see a low, a high, a low, a high, low, high, low, high. We failed to generate that lower low, and instead we made that higher high. So we have this level of demand that could be of interest to us, and that's exactly where we came down into. And I apologize for any background noise, guys. If you hear dogs barking, we have dogs downstairs. So I do apologize for that. So anyways, we created a lot of liquidity before coming into this level of demand. We created equal lows, 3 touches on the trend line, 1, 2, and 3. We finally broke, came into that level of demand, retested it. So retail is probably going short, and then we made the move to the upside. Retail lost again. So this last selling volume and this imbalance in here is really where I'd like to see price come into prior to further continuations to the upside. So naturally, we are in this corrective phase as of now, and I would like to get back up into these levels of supply before potentially shorting again down into this level. So of course, this would be our objective. If we come into here and then have a reaction, then I probably wouldn't look to short from these levels anymore, because we probably end up making a higher high for our higher high, higher low, higher high sequence. But since that objective has not been met yet and we have equal lows, I would definitely like to see further continuation short. So any short-term selling into these equal lows, into that area of demand from these 2 levels of supply would definitely be of interest to me. All right, so that's AUD/USD. Going into EURO/AUD. So with EURO/AUD, we talked about this level here for a while now. And it finally came up and hit it at the end of June. So about a week ago, we came up into that level. So we're at this current time, we were naturally corrective, looking for overall continuations within this higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low sequence. Right? Overall, the direction is still bullish, and I do think that we are going to continue long. However, in the short run, I would like to see further continuation south. So into this level of supply, we can see that it's better seen on the lower time frames. If you guys would like to go in and check it out yourself, you're more than welcome. There's a little area of supply in here that we came up into, but there's 1, 2, 3 touches of that trend line. We can see that third touch had the reaction. Retail got in short, we went long, huge buy to sell, that repricing, better seen on the 1 hour time frame, but for the sake of time, we'll stay on the 4. We had that repricing there and made that lower low. So naturally, we were corrective, looking for overall pullbacks. And what happened was we created equal highs. We never came up into that level. So afterwards, we created a lower low. And then when we started to push back up to the upside, I thought that this could still be valid, because we could see this as buy-side liquidity to be run, and then the continuation to the downside can occur. So that's really what happened here. We had the reaction from the level, took buy-side liquidity. If we scale into the 1 hour, you can see that this is our last buying volume. This is really where the structure started to shift. And that's where we started to move to the downside, creating a lot of buy-side liquidity. Right? We have equal lows, and we had that huge trend line that I just showed. So naturally, we would like to take all that liquidity before continuing lower. We have these equal lows there, so I definitely like to see further downside push. So we created on Thursday, so yesterday prior to NFP, which was Friday, the NFP was used as the excuse to sweep all the liquidity in here and push up into that level. So I'd like to see further continuation short, but what is interesting is that this is Friday's high. So what we could see on Monday morning, potentially one more run of that high, and then that lower low. If we can get that and sort of that distribution schematic and break the counter trend structure, would definitely be interested in looking to short off of that level. So definitely still interested in shorts, but we'll have to just see what happens come the start of the week. But definitely am looking to short. EURGBP, I am looking to short this. We are still very corrective and really in this higher time frame downtrend. We've been in this downtrend since really the start of February. So we've made that lower low. However, I wouldn't classify this as a break of structure to the downside. I probably would classify this as more of like a sell side liquidity run for continuations to the upside. However, this is a very long-term trend. I don't know what is going to happen. However, we have within this corrective phase here, we have our low, our lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, that failure to generate that lower low, and then the higher high. So that huge imbalance that formed along with this area of demand is where I'd like to see price come back down into around 0.85, that psychological level. So we finally are starting to make that move, but we haven't come into it yet. So we created equal lows. I do want to see further downside. So what happened was we created equal highs, created that low, swept buy side liquidity, and then started to fall. So I'd really like to see that retracement back up into these two potential levels of supply for further continuation short into that 0.85 level, just to be sell side liquidity as well. So definitely looking for shorts there. I'd like to see that pullback. I think that would be a great trade. EURUSD. So EU is definitely very much bullish. So we called out a ton of levels here on EU. I mean, going back to really the start of last year, or the end of last year, I should say. Just huge impulsive move to the upside after the reaction from our higher time frame level of demand at 9595. We shifted the structure. You can just clearly see we broke this whole counter trend to the upside. So definitely buys from every single level of demand was taken care of. We called out this level here months and months ago at 1.0545, came down into it once, twice, a third time, and then made the move to the upside. So when we finally created that higher high, and I know it's blurry, I'm just zoomed out here, but we created that higher high, the higher low, the higher high again. So we can see the structure that's forming. So now we have to look for our areas of demand. So where are our last selling volume? Where did the counter trend break? Well, counter trend isn't very clear here. I would probably classify this as the break. And then the last selling volumes were these two levels of demand there. So that's exactly why we called out those two levels. We only came into the first, didn't quite come into the second one. We accumulated in price, and now we're starting to push higher. We have equal highs, definitely looking to target these equal highs in around 1.11. So definitely looking for continuations long. Also called out this level here on EURUSD just to fill this huge imbalance, just coming back down into an area of demand. Came into it once, twice, even a third time, finally made the move to the upside. So now that this has been broken, I'd like to see pullbacks for further continuations long. And we can see this hourly time frame, 1 hour 50 EMA is coming into play as well. So it could be a good confluence for continuations. We can see that this is the last selling volume before the up thrust here. And this wick actually took out that low and this low. So that is a sell side liquidity run that did occur Thursday at 10 a.m. So prime New York session. I'm definitely looking for further longs there on EURUSD. GBP Swiss franc. So didn't quite get our entry. What we were looking for on GCHF was just further continuations to the upside. I won't go into what's going on in here. I've talked about it in prior videos, so feel free to go back and listen to the other pre-market analysis videos that come out every week on the Trading Nut YouTube channel. Definitely great value there, even though a lot of the stuff that we talked about is no longer valid or has already played out. It's still really good for learning purposes, so definitely go back and check it out. And subscribe to the channel and definitely like the video. Would definitely help, and we would definitely appreciate that. So looking for further continuations long on GCHF. Had the huge sell side liquidity run, broke the structure back up to the upside, and we're going to keep pushing to the upside in my opinion. 1.16 would be the target. Let's go down to a lower time frame. So I know it's blurry again. I'm just kind of zoomed out here. Higher high, higher low, higher high. So we haven't made another higher high yet. So this could just be an overall pullback. This zone of demand is definitely still valid, but this is the range. So we're currently in this pullback phase. So I'd like to see price pushed out further. That would be really, really nice. And we can see here within this counter trend. This is the counter trend here before the up thrust there. Let's look at the areas of supply and demand. So we had that low, had the high, that turns into supply, lower low, lower high, had the reaction, failed to generate the lower low below that low, and said reprice, continue long. So this whole last selling volume is really where we wanted to see price come back down into to retest, but this is a huge level. So we looked at this level of consolidation also to fill in this imbalance that formed there. So 1.13040, we created relatively equal lows. We didn't quite come back down into this zone of demand, but I do like it. I could potentially see this as more of a corrective phase and then go long. Maybe, we see something like a buy side liquidity run, push to the downside. We may be able to short it into that level as well if we find a setup, but obviously that hasn't happened yet. Definitely looking for longs from 0.1304.
All right, folks, I'm here at Blackpool Markets headquarters in Auckland, New Zealand. You can see this amazing view behind me of Auckland Harbour. Now, talking about views, if you do want to get free TradingView Pro, then all you need to do is trade one lot a month at Blackpool Markets, and they're going to give you free TradingView Pro. So, folks, to find out more, click the link in the description below or the card above.
GBPCAD. GBPCAD took off without us, but I do think that these levels are still valid. Higher time frame, definitely bullish, as we can see. I mean, it's just clear as day. Just all you have to do is zoom out. We have a higher time frame level of supply here at 1.7230, so that would be our higher time frame objective. So until reaching that level, definitely still bullish. So any excuse to buy would be good. So what happened was, if we take a zoom out here, we had sell side liquidity that was run, sell to buy, right? That whole level. That last selling volume created that demand. Again, prior to coming down into that demand to mitigate, we created equal lows. Started to have a push to the upside, maybe attracted some buyers, pushed down, created the liquidity, swept it, sell to buy again, just like we had here. Sell to buy, from this level, sell to buy, right? So taking sell side liquidity prior to mitigating levels. So now what happened was, after the fact, after we came into our area of demand, after we swept sell side, after we broke the counter trend structure to the upside, we're looking for pullbacks to long it. Where are our areas of demand? Where are our last selling volumes? Well, you can see that that was our supply. And we almost came into that. So I would say that this is the area of consolidation. We had that initial level, had that reaction, never had the follow through. We ended up continuing short, and we ended up coming back down into this imbalance. We had two levels, just this area of demand here, and then the huge imbalance. So we got stopped out of the first position, which was that area of demand. And then we came into our secondary one, into that level of imbalance. And then we finally took off. So in great profit. And that's what we have with this risk to reward here. Secondary potential entry, if we look at it from a swing structure, market structure, high, low, high, looking for a higher low, for a higher high, for that third drive into the upside. So what we could see, and this is really what I was hoping for. I was hoping that we would break out of the wedge, have that fake out, come back down into that level and go long. We never did that. So I'm still liking this area of demand here, that last selling volume prior to us breaking the structure to go long. Definitely want price to pull back down. It's pretty linear, so I'm not going to make any sudden irrational decisions on this pair yet. If we get back down to 1.6766, great. I would look to definitely take a short from there, but still looking for longs either way. Who knows? Maybe we could see something like liquidity being built up to start the week on a lower time frame. Maybe we come into this level of demand here, have a sell to buy, we pull back, and we go long from that level. Who knows? Something like that could form, and we can just continue to trade with the current lower time frame trend. If we do get an overall pullback, then that's the level that I will be looking for. All right, so that is GBPCAD. GBPNZD. So GBPNZD, just like a lot of the GBP pairs, we're looking to buy GBPUSD, which I'll talk about in a minute, buy GN, looking to buy GA, looking to buy GCAD, looking to sell EG. So a lot of pound strength coming into the market. So we want to be following these higher time frame trends, definitely extremely important. And what we will notice about this is that, well, first and foremost, we're extremely bullish. But secondly, if we go to a lower time frame, kind of look at the internal structure, we have a high, we have a low, we have a higher high. So this is an overall pullback. This is an overall expansion. This is an overall pullback. Hopefully this is an overall expansion. So let's look at the counter trend of our most recent pullback, right? Because that's what we need to look for in terms of identifying our supply zones. So if this is a low, this is a high, came into that level of supply, made a lower low again, didn't make a lower high for a lower low again, we actually made a higher high. So where's our last selling volume? Well, it's really not that clear. I would probably classify this as the last selling volume, just because this is really where we stopped, did not generate the lower low below that low, and that's where we started the uptrend here. So I'm just going to create this box. I'm going to expand this all the way over. I guess we did come into it a first time, but we ended up creating more sell side liquidity. So equal lows, and then we swept that yesterday, London session open. So very perfect timing for this liquidity run was the fact that London session on Thursday, which was yesterday on the 6th, that we opened and then price took it out. What's even more interesting about this is not only that we come into this level, we swept sell side at the right time of day, but if I go to a lower time frame, you'll see this more clearly. Right, this was all of Asian session. All in here is Asian session. All in here. Well, this was, yes, the previous week, Tuesday, Wednesday, price action, but really in here is Asian session. So we had a fake out. We had a buy, enticing buyers right before London opened. All right, we entice buyers, trap them long prematurely. We come back down, sweep their stops, sweeping sell side liquidity, attracting sellers at London open, and then going long. So that huge buy to sell to buy is looking really, really good for that type 2 manipulation. And since we're bullish, we saw the buy side, sell side, and now we're going long again. I would probably classify this as probably going to be the low of the swing, meaning high, low, looking for a higher high now. So with that price action, what I'll be looking for is a pullback into our repricing zone. We have that huge buy to sell to buy, reprice, continue. So that area of demand and this huge imbalance that formed definitely could be really, really nice for continuations long. So we're creating a lot of liquidity now. Who knows, we could take on Monday morning, maybe the start of next week, buy side, sweep sell side, come into our level and go long. Either way, looking for longs on this. What we could do here, since this would be a pretty decent size stop loss, and I'm just going to kind of mark this off very quickly here. What we could do is have two levels, both having the same entry, but one having a stop loss. One having a stop loss tight, maybe below that demand, and then one having a stop below the overall low. So just in case you actually do get the entry perfectly from the demand without coming lower than the demand level, you're in for a huge risk to reward. And let's just put the take profit at like 2.1. Right, that would be an overall higher high, 2.1 psychological level. So just something like that. So in this case, 1 to 3.5 and 1 to 11.5. But you're using half risk each. So even if you lost this position, if price came back down and went like this, swept your stop, but still maintained the structure, well, now you've lost that at half risk, and now you would win this at half risk, which would be about close to 2%, so minus a half. So looking at anywhere between 1 to 1.5% on the trade, in and out, probably within the week, something like that could occur. At least you'd still be net profitable doing it that way. But if you did catch this, instead of just having a 1 to 3.5, you have 3.5 plus 11.5. So that's what, 15? I think, if my math is correct. Sorry, it's Friday. If it's not, that's my excuse. Anyways, 15. So you would have to half risk each of them. So 7.5%. Right. So instead of having a 3.5, you could have a 7.5. And that's how I kind of split up my risk to reward sometimes when I have larger areas. Instead of having a huge stop below the low, split it up just in case, right? But definitely looking for buys on GBPNZD. GBPUSD is also really, really nice. Talked about a few levels on GU. Talked about this one back in mid-June. Said that when we created our sell side run, obviously we're extremely bullish. Dollar was extremely weak. Created a huge sell side trend line. We swept the trend line and started to go long. Many people would probably classify this as a break of structure, and they'd be looking for pullbacks to short, but then price just continues to trickle. Don't be so quick to judge breaks of structure, right? Look at the overall trend and then have your initial reaction be, oh, it's just a sell side liquidity run, right? So many people would think that, oh, okay, we create a high, low, and then we go like this. Well, it's probably just a sell side liquidity run for continuations to the upside because we're bullish. So that should be the initial thought. But anyways, ended up following the structure all the way up, reacting off of every level of demand in here, had that last selling volume as well, called that level out. And then I didn't say to buy it off of 1.2598 over here when price came back down into that level, but I said look for reactions from it. I also talked about the fact that we had equal highs, we had equal lows. So what we could see is that fake out to the downside, taking liquidity sell side, reacting from that level around 1.26 psychological level, and then making the move to the upside. And that's exactly what happened. And now we have actually, I think maybe we did take out that level, or maybe we just created perfectly equal highs. But anyways, that just goes to show we're probably going to continue long to sweep this high and make a higher high. So looking for overall continuations, we have our higher high, our higher low, higher high, looking for a higher low for a higher high again. Our overall objective would be on this daily time frame. You can kind of see from a higher time frame perspective, we could be in for more of a correction, because I guess you could say we're bearish, but we've taken out, I would say, all-time lows here at 1.0520. So I definitely think we're going to continue long. But at least to fill up the imbalance, if we were to continue short, this huge imbalance would be filled up around 1.3. So that's definitely going to be the objective for further continuation. So in terms of the here and now, we have two levels. I was really hoping that we would get back down into our level of demand in here, freeing up this huge imbalance that formed. We never pulled back enough. I still like this level around 1.2650. So if price does come back down into it, I still will be looking for longs from that level. But if we just continue with the structure here, we could easily just react off of the lower time frame and continue. So what was interesting is that 10 a.m. Eastern time yesterday, we had the sell side liquidity run. We built up liquidity here, creating equal lows. What was interesting about this is that we created this range. 1, 2, 3 touches there, 1, 2, 3 touches there, right? Just this trading range here. We faked out to the upside, attracting buyers. This was Thursday pre-New York session, came back down, swept their stops, attracted sellers below the low when New York session opened, and then we continue to the upside. So again, seeing that buy to sell to buy, that type 2 manipulation we talk about in our courses, having that huge buy, sell to buy, repricing ourselves and continuing long. So definitely looking for a pullback into that sort of repricing zone, that area of demand, 1.2750. So again, psychological level coming into play here. So we can build confluences around these important levels and look for continuations with the overall direction of trend. And so that's definitely what we're going to be looking for on GBPUSD. NZDUSD, only a couple more guys. I'll go through them relatively quickly. With NU, still looking for the same thing. Looking for further continuations long. Dollar is still higher time frame bearish in my opinion. So definitely want to continue to look to buy that. Anyways, came back down. We talked about this before. It's similar, very, very similar to AUDUSD, just like we chatted about before. NZDUSD created that area of supply, pulled back up into that supply, had the reaction, never made the lower low, because at this point in time, none of this price action was here. It was just this, right? So naturally, we would have expected a lower low. It stopped and instead made the higher high. Now, I didn't buy it from that level because really, you would have had to have placed stops here, really down here, but that would be ridiculous. So it's really just looking for reactions and then the lower time frame continuations. So we created liquidity, equal highs, and then somewhat, not really equal lows, but just ascending sell side liquidity. So again, prior to coming down into the level, it happens all the time. Generate liquidity, sweep it, attracting sellers as price continues to fall, and then price starting to go long now. So I fully expect price to now go and take out these equal highs, come up into this imbalance around 0.64550 into this level of supply here. If not, a higher high, right? 6.5, 6.6, and we can just continue to look to hold. But for the sake of this particular analysis, I have 6.450. Still a great risk to reward, 1 to 7. So what was interesting on a lower time frame, you can see here, this is where the lower time frame came into play, low, high, low, high, low. We broke, generated liquidity here, swept it, mitigated that last selling volume, demand, filling up that huge imbalance, continuing north. Again, counter trend, low, high. We had that last buy to sell. We had the reaction from it, these two levels of demand, that last two selling volumes prior to the structure being broken to the upside. All right, so those were our two levels of demand. So that's exactly where we came into perfectly. Now within this counter trend, we had a low, high, low, high, low, high, last selling volume, higher high now. We're actually creating equal highs, so definitely for 100% expect further upside. But within this trend, we have a high, a low, a high, a low. I'm just looking for overall pullbacks back down into 0.61. It would sweep all of this sell side liquidity, and we can come down, fill this huge imbalance that formed, and then that area of demand, that last selling volume. So 0.61 psychological level, definitely looking good if we get pullbacks into that level come next week. All right, so that's NZDUSD. USDJPY. What's interesting about UJ is on the higher time frame, let's just take a look at the daily really quick. On the daily, we came up into an interesting level of supply. Now, I have no idea if we're actually going to see follow through like this. We easily could to the downside, or this could just be in for a deeper retracement for continuations. Who knows? But what I noticed from this is the fact that we came up into this huge imbalance that formed on the daily time frame. You can see that doji candle. So within this current structure to the upside, we had a high, low, high, low, high, low, high, low, failed to generate the higher high, lower low. So that will flip from demand to supply. And that's exactly where we came back up into to retest. Now, I didn't sell it there because, again, that would have been a huge stop loss and probably not the best risk to reward. But I was looking for reactions and then the lower time frame confirmations for us to get in short with a better risk to reward. So let's head down to a lower time frame. Just wanted to show you that just so you have a point of reference for what I'm talking about with this huge blue box here. But anyways, you can see the distribution. Right? We finally had that pullback back into it. We mitigated it, and we're just distributing, and then we fell. Right now, we've clearly started to push away from the level. Now I can probably look for the lower time frame short opportunities. So with that being said, that's our last buying volume in here. Created that lower low, so I'd like to see a lower high for a lower low. Also looks really good on the 4-hour time frame when it comes down to the 4-hour 50 EMA. Could be, starting to roll over to the downside, so pull back into that level. 50 EMA could come back up to test that, and then we continue short, revert back to the mean first, and then short off. So definitely looking for shorts in and around our 143.5 level, potentially up into 144. So that's you, Jay.
Tired of missing trades or spending hours at the charts? Introducing my Robot Builders Club. With our platform, you can build bots in minutes, not weeks, without any coding required. Get lifetime access to my video course, VIP community, and over 40 ready-made robots. Works with MT4 or MT5, and as a bonus, you'll get 3 months access to my robot lab, where we build and test bots on live calls every week. Join the hundreds of traders who are trading smarter, not harder. Click the link in the description to learn more, get the free training, and download a free robot.
NZDCAD, nothing too pertinent. I just wanted to show you the higher time frame really. Overall, NZDCAD is still in its corrective phase. We're still lower time frame bearish, right? We're still in our corrective phase. We still need to be looking for pullbacks to continue short, right? Continue to trade with the trend until it breaks, right? So lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. Could be in for a lower high for a lower low. I would like to see price dig deeper into potentially 7.8, 7.9, but definitely 0.8. I definitely think that 0.8 will be met. If we scale into what's going on in here, I know I have all these lines. We've called out a lot of levels here on NZDCAD already. Huge risk to rewards on these, and some of which I'm still holding small positions. Just failed to meet my overall 0.8 level, but I do think we're going to continue lower. But anyways, this is our last corrective pullback, lower high, lower low. Could be in for a pullback, lower high for a lower low. So where is our last buying volume? Well, really it's right here, that last buy to sell. But we have a lot of imbalance in here. We have this last repricing event on the lower time frame. So I'd like to see 0.8418 be met. So that's why, creating buy side liquidity, could run it and then short off. So definitely looking for shorts from 0.8418. And we'll just see what happens from there. If we break to the upside, we'll just adapt to what's going on. But at this current time, I don't see anything lower time frames kind of just chopping around. But on AUDCAD, what's interesting about ACAD is the fact that we did the same exact thing. Let me see. Actually, no, it was on AUDNZD. Sorry, I'm getting my pairs mixed up. But anyways, same sort of concepts, right? From a higher time frame perspective, right, we talked about this plenty of times. This huge level of demand. Well, I just said it. It's a huge level of demand. This blue box is the level of demand on the higher time frame. We had the 2020 crash, right? The sell to buy, the repricing, and the continuation. Lower time frame in here is that last demand level, 0.871. So price finally came back down into it. Again, I've talked about these levels a lot, but just wanting to reiterate so you guys understand what's happening on the higher time frame. We came into that level, beautiful accumulation. We broke structure to the upside, pullback, did not make the lower low, made the higher high. So this is really where this trend started. And now we're coming back down into this huge imbalance zone, right? So having our huge higher high, higher low moment, I'm looking for overall swings to the upside just because we're extremely bullish. We've come into that higher time frame level of demand. We've had the reaction from it. I definitely think we could continue long. But we could, in the short term, continue to push lower. We still have this 0.87, let's see. Yeah, 0.871 level. Really, price could come as low as this low here, right? So anywhere in, I think there's a lower time frame level of demand right there. If you scale into like the 1 hour, you might be able to see it better. We have the imbalance. Just deeper down into this level, we could come. So not to say that this reaction that we have here is the low and now we're just going to moon to the upside. We could come lower, have one more push into the downside. But what's interesting about this is that before coming into this level, we created buy side and sell side liquidity. And it wasn't buy and sell side liquidity that was obvious when it formed. It's just the fact that we came back up with this wick right here, swept buy side liquidity, came back down, swept sell side into that level of demand that we just talked about, and now we're pushing away from it. So I think we could have a potential move to the upside. If we don't, then I'll wait for a price. If it does come short, I'll wait for a price to have the reaction off 871, and I'll look for opportunity to long after that. But scaling into this really quick, talked about this level here. Aiden called this out to their VIP members this week. Had a massive move with news, sell to buy, kind of chopped around. And then we had that entry. I think it happened here because we just missed it. right there. But anyways, there's just the imbalance on a lower time frame, just to take advantage of the lower time frame trend, because we can see the low, the high, the low, and now we're starting the uptrend. We broke the structure, so we could easily just continue with that lower time frame. So that's exactly what we were looking for. Huge imbalance in here. Chose that level 88250, something like that, and had a great reaction from it this week. Actually happened yesterday in New York session. So in profit here, stops are definitely at break even. I don't have anything in terms of a new setup. Kind of just waiting to see if we're going to continue short before going long again, or if we're just going to, if this is actually the low of the market, we're actually going to just continue long and make that overall higher high. We'll have to just see. But what we could look for, having the understanding of the overall directional bias and the important higher time frame levels that were just discussed, what we can do is, now that we know that this could be a potential area of demand in which we now could see a higher high in the market and we go really long, well, then we can be looking for our lower time frame opportunities to buy it. So apply what you've learned throughout these videos, and in terms of the general concepts. Maybe what happens is price chops around. We create, I don't know, some sort of wedge. We have some sort of buy to sell to buy. Maybe we have a little repricing here. Price could come back down, retest that level, and we go long. So look for the lower time frame, day-to-day, intraday type of plays. Have the trades that you are placing, guys, meet your rules. If they don't meet your rules, don't place the trade. Right? Treat each trade as its own and build proper confluences. This would have all the confluences, right? So I don't know if this is going to form, but if it does, we understand the concept and know how to apply it. So we take it from a higher time frame perspective in terms of a full top-down analysis, essentially just what I just did, from the higher time frame levels, the higher time frame buy to sell to buy potentially, the zones of interest, and now that we're bullish on the lower time frame, we can be looking for opportunities like this. If we get them, great. And if we don't, we sit on our hands and wait for those opportunities to come, right? So that's AUDCAD, AUDNZD. Don't really have much on this pair at the moment. Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm really looking for further continuations long. We came into an area of demand here. This was a higher time frame level way over to the left. This is our last selling volume, very similar to AUDCAD. Again, higher time frame demand, had the reaction from it, failed to make the lower low below that low, repriced right here. This was our last selling volume, and that's where the trend started, right? So higher high, higher low, we came back down into that level beautifully. And then before that, what happened was, let me just get rid of this so we're not dealing with it later. We created buy side liquidity, sell side liquidity. Where? Prior to coming into that level that we talked about. And again, we've talked about AUDNZD plenty of times. Huge buy to sell to buy. Type 2 manipulation. Buy to sell to buy. This was our last repricing. This was our last imbalance zone before the continuation and the higher high was made. So now having an overall retracement, creating sell side liquidity, 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touches, came into that zone. And I'm still in this trade. It's a phenomenal trade. I even said it could be the potential trade of the year, even way before we had the entry. So we came into that level, and what's interesting is that we repriced ourselves in a sense of, we're not repricing, we kind of broke and retested. So when we broke this trend line, 1, 2, 3 touches of the trend line, retail was buying, we swept their stops, but at the same time, price also, or retail was probably looking to sell below the trend line. It broke, it retested, and then it tried to go short, so trapping retail short, and boom, going long. So let's look at the counter trend, because where do we look for our flips? Look at the counter trend. So low, high, low, high, low, high, low, and we blasted right through it. So really, whoops, this was our last buying volume before the structure broke. So what I was looking for could be a potential reaction from the level, the failure to generate the lower low and the higher high. That would have been our area of demand, right? That would have been great for continuations long from that level. Well, we can see what happened was we just blitzed right through that prior supply zone. And we never really created a demand. So this is what we call in our courses inside supply or demand, right? So in this case, it was supply. And now since we've made the higher high now, we can it flips to demand because it blitzed right through it. This is inside supply, kind of filling the imbalance as well. So wanting price to get back down into this level, the high level of this, it's 1.067. What do I mean by high level? Like high level, the top of the range, the bottom of the range of the zone, right? So that's probably where I'd be placing my entry. Let's get rid of that. So definitely waiting for price to get back down into that level. Could be great for continuations long. At this point, I don't know if I would look to sell it from that level. I'm just going to get rid of it. So looking for pushes into that level for continuations long. Last one, guys, EUROCHF. And I appreciate your time today. Thank you for staying with us throughout this entire video. But anyways, EUROCHF. Talked about this, again, plenty of times before. We are technically in a downtrend, low, high, low, high, low. So could be in for a lower high for lower low. Even though we are bearish, we've made the lower low, right? This is the previous low. We've come down, we've made that lower low. Below this low here, we accumulated, and now the lower time frame trend is continuing. So this could be, we could now be in a corrective phase coming into our supply zone prior to going short again from a higher time frame perspective. Lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, right? So currently we're still overall bearish, but right now we're currently lower time frame bullish. So what we also have is now that we've made the lower low, we've accumulated, we're now lower time frame bullish. We can be looking for potential setups to buy counter trend into our higher time frame objectives and then turn around and look to short it. So we have equal highs right here. We have descending liquidity here. That high was never taken out. This high never took out that previous high. So relatively equal highs. So we're just looking for continuations, right? High, low, high, low, high, right? So let's scale into a lower time frame. What we have here is when we accumulated in price, right? Let's take a look at sort of the counter trend. Low, high, low, high, low, high. Failed to generate the lower low. We never made the lower low below that low, and instead we made the higher high. So this really was our last selling volume, right? But obviously that would be a huge zone. So we can see 1, 2, 3 touches of this little mini trend line. We swept the liquidity, enticing shorts, pushed up, repriced, continued. So this would be that area of demand that we'd be looking to trade from. Huge imbalance as well. So we created a channel. I thought this could be a breakout of the channel short to entice retail shorts for us to then get in long when it hits the demand, but we can see it never came back down into it, just missed by a couple of pips. You can see that little gap in there. So we're coming back down now, and I think that this level is still valid. 9,720 is definitely still valid, and I think this would be not a break of structure because this is just an expansion, an overall retracement, and expansion. That's kind of how I would view it. So I'd view this as sell-side liquidity for us to go and run into that level to go long. So definitely looking for continuations long there. However, until we meet this objective 9,720, what if we have a mini retracement? Could we go short? Well, obviously we have to understand that everything needs to meet our rules. We can't just say that we're going to short because we need to come back down into here. Really, do we need to come back down here? I mean, yes, but no. I would like to see price get back down into this level. It would make sense, but market doesn't have to. The market can do whatever the heck it wants to do. So we have to treat each trade as its own. Going on to a lower time frame, we have that setup. So kind of following the mitigation train here. I know it's blurry. I'm just kind of zoomed out here. What happened was we came up into supply. That wick actually took out that high. We created liquidity, huge buy to sell. That doji candle right there is our repricing, or that area of supply now created more liquidity, huge buy to sell. Why does stuff like this happen, guys? It happens over and over and over again. Prior to levels, on the higher time frame, lower time frame, I don't care what time frame you're on. The markets are fractal. Everything happens on every time frame. So this was just building liquidity to push price up into the level, attracting buyers, sweeping the stops of anyone who is potentially selling before mitigating this area of supply to then go short, huge buy to sell. So then we made a lower low. We came back up into our last buying volume, right? So, well, really this is, but I would classify just this overall level as the supply, right? And stop loss was above the high, which we never hit. This actually never hit the stop. It came close, but it never hit it. Stop loss placement's key. So came back up into the level, had a little bit of follow through, but had an overall pullback again, didn't get stopped out, great, and then we continued lower. So still in this trade, it's just continuing to fall. But what we can notice is that, let me just get rid of that. Low, high, low. Well, we swept all the liquidity here, all that buy side liquidity, huge buy to sell. So what happened? Well, we made a lower low again. So this is the new range. Overall pullback, created liquidity in here, right? These equal highs were run, buy to sell, into this level of supply. That was our last buying volume before we broke and made the lower low again. right? So we came up, we came up into that level, and again, we apply the same concepts. High, low, failed to make the higher high, obviously just because we mitigated this already, so we didn't need to go any higher. That was our last buying volume that failed to make the higher high. We made the lower low now, so that will turn into our supply zone. So it's exactly what we're looking for. And if we got to the 1 hour time frame, you can clearly see that candle, that last buy to sell move. So I'm looking for price to pull back up into that level 97722, and I'm looking for shorts down into 9720 to then take long. If price comes into this level first and then goes long, am I looking to sell this? No. Why? Because the objective would have been met. But if we leave this objective open, come back up into that level, now there's still room to go to the downside before potentially going long, like we're hoping for. What we're doing is creating a channel. So we're building liquidity prior to the start of the week. So we could see is either one of two things. Either we could see a sell to buy and we look to go long, or we could see a fake out long come into that level, we short it, and this is just a fake out from the channel here, the wedge, then we go short, so we attract buyers upon the breakout, we short it, price comes back lower, retail then gets stopped out for anyone who's buying, but then those who sell upon the breakout of the bottom channel here, the bottom level channel, this is the upper level channel, this is the bottom level channel, and anyone who is selling below the breakout of that, when they see price then selling off for a lower low, they sell it. And then they get trapped short because market will probably go long, and that's where we buy it. So it's really observing the masses and doing the opposite, understanding retail concepts and implementing them not into our trading and how we trade, but implementing it in a sense that we can see where retail is likely getting in and then doing the opposite. And it follows the smart money strategy, right? So obviously if retail is buying above the breakout and we have an area of supply that has all the other confluences that I just went over, higher and lower time frame, well, then that's another confluence to go short because it's against retail, right? So I'm sure you guys could pick up on what I mean there. Again, still in profit here. I'm at break even. I'm not risking anything on this trade anymore. If it goes long, oh well. Looking to short, looking to long, and then a higher time frame, potentially looking to short from these levels of supply, but we're nowhere near it, so I won't talk about it for now. Anyways, guys, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you have any questions, please feel free to hit me up. Be happy to help in any way I can. And if you would like to learn more about our strategy and how we break down charts from a very simplistic standpoint, from a step-by-step streamlined level, and want to be involved in a community that fosters growth and development, and that does not complicate trading, but teaches how to not just understand the concepts, but apply it to the charts, most important thing, feel free to head over to my website, aerialfxtrading.com, book a free call with me just to see if it's the right fit. If it is, great. We'd love to have you on board. If it's not, well, then at least you know that, and I'll even give you my trading plan for free as well for booking a call. But anyways, guys, have a great weekend and happy trading next week. Take care.